Trauma and addiction, I believe, has a huge connection. And in this episode of Unhinged Addiction, I'm going to be talking with Bryan on his experience with trauma and how it kind of led him down the path of addiction. I don't think that trauma is the only reason we become an addict, but I believe it is a good cause of what leads us down the pathway of becoming an addict is this unhealthy coping skill all of a sudden that we find that's really damaging and destructive. And yet it's the only way we know how to escape. I am your host. I'm Eric B. Zink. I go by Eric B. Zink on YouTube. On Facebook, I go by Eric Zink. You can find me on TikTok by the Mr. Impulsive or on Instagram, the Mr. Impulsive. You can go to ericbzink.com, which is my website. Feel free to submit in a request if you'd like to be on this podcast and share about your story of addiction. I do love sharing other people's stories. And so Bryan and I get right into it on discussing trauma in life and how that just ended up turning into escaping through addiction.
And my trauma looks a lot different than John Doe's trauma over here in the suburbs that had too much money or didn't have enough money in the trailer park, you know. Trauma is trauma, though. The shit is real and the shit is traumatic, and it leaves an imprint on our life and our existence. But I'm excited to jump into this topic. I have
Well, let me ask you this then, because I just recently shared in a video a piece of trauma that, like, the one thing I'd never really ever shared with anybody. Like, when I was a young kid, I had a babysitter who kept trying to get me to give him oral sex. I ended up saying no, but it was one of those that it burned into my brain. It has always been there, and it was one of those that I really talked down a lot, that I didn't do anything, so was it really that bad? Am I just making this up in my head type deal?
Yeah.
Let me ask you, I mean, is there a piece of trauma out there right now or something that you've been through that you haven't really shared about, you just keep it inside, but it still kind of haunts you to this day?
Yeah, you know, that's a great question. And so I didn't start sharing this until I went on JD DeLay's podcast. And it was my first time sharing it publicly. And then I went on another podcast, One Day at a Time, and I think I shared a little bit on it our last episode that we did. So when I was 9 years old, I was sexually assaulted by a family friend within the church. It was just it was it was something that I didn't want to tell anybody about. But what was more traumatic than that experience, which that's hard to uh, say that there's anything more traumatic than that as a young boy, was that I had so much abandonment issues in my life that I craved that attention. And the predator, right, the man that did this to me, he he fed on that. And he knew he knew that about me. And I'm going to say it how it is. He knew that about his victims, right? That they craved that attention, and that's how he was able to continue to pick his victims. And so it was very traumatic, bro. It was traumatic for me until I entered into recovery and sat down with another man and was like, yo, this happened to me. I don't know how to get over it. You know, I realized very quickly that because of that trauma, all of the other behaviors with it came, and that's what my addiction was. That was what my sex addiction, my codependency issues, my substance addiction, my alcoholism. How about my addiction to relationships and women? And it affected all of my life and every decision that I made. It was extremely difficult to talk about. But being able to work on myself, I was able to come out and say, trust another man, right? Because you and I, we're men, and we need men, good, healthy men, to discuss our wrongs and the shit that happened to us, and be able to verbalize that and get that off of our chest. And so I wasn't able to do that until I was ready to get honest. Um, but the thing about trauma, I've learned if I've had to take accountability, I had to take my part in it. Even as a 9-year-old boy, which has I was a I was a fucking baby, okay? I really, when someone looks at that, it's like, okay, how does a 9-year-old boy that just got sexually assaulted take accountability for that? And that was me owning it, right? Like this happened to me, and I did. It's not that I allowed it, but I didn't speak up, right? And it wouldn't have happened to me for so long because it happened to me for several years, several summers, going and visiting with uh, my family, and what happened there. I could have spoke up, and so I have to take accountability as a person, as a man, on that trauma expanding over so long. But it's dangerous to say, tell somebody, hey, you have to take accountability for your shit, your trauma, right? Because really, when we look at it, we're like, I don't have any. There's no accountability that I can take in that situation.
I think a part of it too, and tell me what your thoughts are on this, because I've went even like myself back into EMDR therapy and a lot of different
Yeah.
therapy, been in it all my life. The one thing I had found when it came to taking accountability for it was it was almost like letting that inner child that you had that wasn't protected at the time, that now I'm going to protect you.
Hmm.
The more that you start to
Hmm.
speak about it, it's the more that you almost like start to trust yourself again.
Hmm.
And it's not saying, oh, I necessarily did I put myself into all these positions, because yeah, you as like a 9-year old didn't know any better.
Right.
But the older that you've gotten as an adult, hiding this, not letting that inner kid, that part of you heal,
Yeah.
all of that just it dissolves that trust that we have even with ourselves.
Hmm.
And I mean, is that kind of what you mean when you talk about your accountability with it, or what do
Yeah.
you mean?
Yes. Absolutely. That's a great way to put it. Is now that I'm older, I'm protecting that younger self, that inner child, that innocence about myself. And the only way that I can protect it, and this is for me and me only, I'm not saying that everybody else that has experienced trauma has to take accountability for that, because there are some extreme situations, but this is the process that helped me. Okay. I do. I tried to protect that inner child. Tried to go back and be that mentor and that adult, that protector of my innocence where other people fell short. And instead of blaming them, it's not that I'm blaming myself. I'm just taking account for what that is. And that's the only way that I can work through it and grow from it.
I totally agree with that, and it is it's one of those that you learn from it. You become more comfortable talking about it. You become more comfortable sharing all your everything you've been
Yeah.
through, and it's amazing. The more that you share that stuff, the less that it kind of haunts you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And the less of that information you suppress.
Hmm.
No, so now that I'm not suppressing all of that, now it's not coming out in weird ways, and I'm coping with it with drugs, alcohol, more sex, toxic relationships, this, that, whatever that coping, isolation, whatever that coping mechanism was, because I'm vulnerable enough to share it. And then on the flip side of it, I'm helping other men come out and come forward with their shit, and now they see me be strong, so now they're able to be strong and say, hey, I could possibly talk to a therapist about this. I could possibly talk to a sponsor, or of my father or my brother, or Eric or Bryan, and
Hmm.
that's where the healing happens, is letting that out. It's just, so I find it in strength in both sides. It's a strength in me to heal, and it's a strength to be vulnerable, to talk about the trauma, and allow someone else to hear it and be relatable to that trauma.
And I find this fascinating. And since you work with a lot of addicts,
Yeah.
have you seen like a correlation? And what I've learned and what I experienced, you were a lot like me as an addict. I met addicts that they went like one of the two, and I always called them like add-ons. And it was more chaos that we had to add, and more just dopamine and rush and hell essentially. A lot of addicts I've noticed when they get high, they go gambling, and
Mhm.
online gambling, whatever it is, man. Like they're sweating bullets, betting $100 at a time on some digital whatever. Or you get the addicts like kind of you and I that we go to sex.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed like any kind of like correlation with people? Because I've noticed it's usually one or the other.
You know,
That the people lean more towards the sex, probably, or maybe have had some kind of sexual trauma in their life.
yeah. Yeah. And because I experience it the way that you experience it with let's get fucked up, then let's have sex, right?
Hmm.
So in my mind, my perception, I believe that's everybody's truth.
Right.
It's like because I can't see it any other way. Well, how would you not want to get fucked up and then have sex?
Right.
I mean, what it doesn't make any sense to me. What so, but I think that is the case for a lot of the people that I work with. And when I sit down and have these conversations with my guys that are in our program, they come out and they're able to be honest about it. They were like, you know what? I never thought about it like that. Thank you for helping me, discover that part. And it does stem, I think maybe it does stem from some kind of sexual trauma. It because I'm not making this up. This is the statistic. When I talk about my sexual trauma as a young child, I typically have maybe half the room come up to me and say, "Hey, I can relate with you." Now, and I have some of them, they come up and they tell me exactly what happened. But almost every time, more than half the room will come up to me and say, "Hey, I can really relate with you on that." And that's what's empowering. That's what's important, because these men that I speak with, which all addicts have something in common, right? And so I can speak out to the addiction population, addict population, and say, we've all got something to relate to. If you're struggling with that traumatic experience, just share it. Just be vulnerable to say it, because what I had to experience some humility before sharing all my trauma, because I believed that I was different. I believed that I was special. And when I came to the honesty part of it, I was like, I'm not fucking special. Like, this happened to me, and this happened to him, and him, and him, and him, and him. And so our situation isn't special. Let's put it that way. The trauma is continuing to happen, and it's being more talked about and more brought about in circles, in groups, in discussions, social media, so on and so forth.
No, and it is, and it's amazing how much we don't speak about it, and you repress it and you push it away, and it's one of those that it never made sense to me either, of how we just kind of convince ourselves that it's not that bad, or other people had it worse than us,
Yeah.
or whether it's shame or guilt or whatever it might be, of trying to let any of that go and actually talk.
Yeah. I want to
um
uh I want to share my philosophy that I believe in, my theory, okay, about trauma, about life experience, everything that happens to us. And I may be crazy, but this is what helps me do everything that I do, right? It helps me accept things. It helps me forgive people. It helps me love people. It helps me love myself, forgive myself, all of the above. So I believe uh, that before we came into this physical meat coat, right? This skin, this body, this world, this dimension, right? We're in this soul world, right? This whole other dimension. And I truly believe that all of everybody that I come in contact with, you, me, my wife, baby mama, dad, everybody, that we came together and we said, hey, Eric, you're going to meet me at this time in my life, and you're going to do this and this, and we're both like super excited about it. Or let's take it to the extreme measure. The predator that harmed me when I was 9 years old, right? So our souls came together and made this contract that this traumatic experience was going to happen. And I still yet to know what exactly the lesson was for me to learn from that. Maybe it was growth, maybe it was forgiveness, maybe it was love. I don't know. I'm just living my life to the fullest. But we all come to this agreement, and we're all super excited about this contract that we're making with each other, and we're so excited, and we're like, oh, I'm going to learn so much, and then we split. And then we come into this physical world, and then we get here and we start going through it, and we're like, oh my fucking God. And we're like, this is horrible. Why would you do this to me? And blah, 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 blah. And then, so if I look at it that way, then I look at it like there's a purpose behind the traumatic experience. There's some kind of purpose behind me living today. I didn't die and from it. I'm not moved on. And if I was, that was the purpose. I don't know where that would come in play, because I'm not dead. But if I believe that theory, then it makes it possible for me to forgive the predator. It makes me forgive the victims that I've hurt. It makes me forgive myself, the whole situation. It helps me accept it. And so that's my cheat code, is that this is the contract that my soul made for this life, right? And I believe in reincarnation and all of this other shit, but uh, we have these soul contracts, and we forget when we get here, and then we go through it, and then we're surprised, and then we think it has some other kind of meaning. So trying to figure out what the meaning is pointless. Just live life, accept it. This is what it is. But that's the theory that helps me deal with all of the trauma.
And I think it's important to come up with stuff to help us in our own way with all the trauma, because
Yeah.
everybody's been through so much.
Right.
And if you have no way to even cope with it or handle it, it just is so overwhelming. It shuts you down,
Yeah.
and then it just makes drugs and alcohol that much easier.
Right. Absolutely. It makes it way more fun too.
Oh, it does. It
It's
does.
like, oh yeah, shut me off. Click. Uh, yeah, it's just we can do some reverse psychology mind tricks on ourselves. And so I believe what we perceive becomes our reality. And for so many years, I talked so bad to myself, like, oh, you're stupid, you can't do this, just talk horrible to myself, right? And I realized that, like, if someone else in my life were to talk to me the way that I talk to myself, they wouldn't be my friend for very long. And so I started talking to myself the way that I would want someone else to talk to me. I started becoming more positive. And so when I say the reverse psychology part is like, oh, this is bad. I can't believe this. I'll never get over this. Instead of saying that, I reverse that and I say, hey, this is great. It is what it is. Hey, you can do this. Positive affirmations, and looking at myself, and just building that genuine relationship within myself.
And I think that's the thing that a lot of people miss, is a relationship with themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why it's funny, because like even with affirmations for a lot of people don't work, because they just don't believe them to the core of their bone.
Yeah.
Which is, and I had to break it down even more basic with myself personally, on trusting myself. I would make deals with myself and do things just because I didn't necessarily want to do it, but just to prove to myself I could do it.
Yeah.
And I made a word to myself that I was going to do it, and no matter how it turned out, I did it. And it was like, okay, at least I know if I tell myself I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
starting to build, building blocks where I kind of actually trusted myself, because for the longest time I didn't. And as an addict, I think for me a lot eroded it away, because I always wanted to get sober. every
Yeah.
Monday I was getting sober. What are you talking about? You know?
Yeah, and that's what we couldn't do is we could stop, but we couldn't stop starting over.
Hmm.
It was like, okay, I'm good for today, and then I'm gonna quit doing drugs, and then we start all over again. And that was the vicious cycle that continued to happen was like gain everything, lose everything, gain everything, lose everything. And it's what you're speaking about is like consistency. It's like just disciplining myself to do the things that I say that I'm going to do. And they got a saying, and it's a man is only as good as his word. And so when you look at that little phrase, that little cliche phrase, right? You look at yourself and you say, okay, so what am I telling myself? I've been lying to myself. What am I telling myself I'm going to do, but I'm never doing it, or I'm going to stop doing, but I'm never going to stop doing it. And we have to define that definition as a man, as a person, and list those values, list those morals, and stay true to that. And once we can, then shit starts changing. Then the world starts changing. Our perception of reality starts changing. Our ideas about ourselves, we start healing when we start living true to our word and what we feel and say we're going to do.
How long did it take for you to notice a difference in recovery when you first started getting sober? Were you actually like, hey, I actually like this life a little bit?
Well, it was different for me because I was incarcerated for 2.5 years, the first 2.5 years of my sobriety, right? And so I didn't have much to like. Everything was set for me. I was in prison. I was wake up, go to host squad, or wake up, go to breakfast, go back to the barracks, go to host squad, come back to the barracks, work out, read, meditate, eat chow, like do it all over again. And that was my routine. And um, but I think there was a point like when I was in county jail waiting to go to prison, and I remember just like hating myself, like, and so I had to trick my subconscious. I don't know where this came from, but I was like, man, if I could just like look at myself in the mirror and love myself like I love that girl that would ride passenger seat and kind of get those butterflies about myself, then maybe like there's a chance that I could forgive myself. Maybe I could heal. Maybe I could live a life worth living. And so what I did was I would look in the mirror and I would repeat, I love you. I love you. And remind you, this was in a jail cell, and I had a cellmate, and they thought I was out of my mind and weird, which it probably looked really weird. And but I was so dedicated and committed to changing my life. I was just sick and tired of like holding on to all the guilt and all the shame and going through this over and over and over and hurting people. It's like they say, hurt people, right? And I was tired of hurting people, and I was hurting people because of my trauma, because someone else was hurt and they traumatized me through their shit. And I knew that the only way to stop was to stop. And I had to lie to myself for a long time that I actually loved myself and that I cared about myself. And so it was real weird. It was a weird time. But in my recovery, I went through prison, and I got out, went to a reentry program through the prison. And when I graduated, I just stayed on that routine. And because I was so busy and I had good people in my life, I didn't really experience like this plateau of like emotions where like, oh my God, I can't, I'm never going to get any better. I didn't have to go through that because I feel that because I was in prison and incarcerated, that I had all the free time in the world to like love myself again. So I can understand where someone else is coming from, where they don't have to be incarcerated and go through that part, and they have to do it out here in the world. I don't think I could have ever done it if I would have done it out here without being incarcerated.
So do you think? So you think that being incarcerated actually helped you get sober?
Absolutely, without a doubt. It rehabilitated me. I'm a firm believer that if I wouldn't have ever experienced going to prison multiple times, I would have never learned how to be the man I am today. The prison shaped me, it formed me, it taught me humility, it taught me things that I wouldn't have learned on my own. Um, but I do have to give like kudos to the reentry program because I still had reservations that I would could get high on the weekends, right? That it wasn't really that big of a deal, but um, yeah, the penitentiary it formed me. It taught me respect. It taught me humility. It taught me how to be honest. It taught me to be cautious, right? To like watch around, be observant to my surroundings. So yeah, the penitentiary prison time absolutely rehabilitated me, but it only did that because I changed my mindset when I got in there. You know,
So what happened to change your mindset this time, this last time that you went in there versus all the other times that you went in there?
my family completely cut me off.
So
Uh,
your family stopped finally enabling you.
Absolute. Well, yeah, they did, and the only way that they could do it was quit talking to me, and by family I mean my father, because me and my father are like we're close, and
Hmm.
he did not talk to me for like 4 years, and it was devastating, and it that was the relationship that I admired the most. You know, that was the relationship that I cherished. And him like just taking his hands off, wouldn't answer my phone calls, wouldn't return my letters, wouldn't put money on my books, wouldn't communicate with me at all. And him putting that distance between us, that's what saved me. That's what pushed me to change my desire. That's what made me look at the way that I was behaving and acting out towards him and other people.
So let me ask you. So you get put in there, and I'm sure you and your dad had experienced that before, where your dad would be upset, type deal. So when he first kind of cut you off, how long did it take you for you to realize, like, wait, he's not coming back this time?
About about I didn't start to change until about 2 years after he did that.
So it took him
Uh,
about 2 years of not talking to you, of cutting you off, for you to go, this is really
yeah,
it.
yeah,
And that is, I think, one of the most powerful things ever, because, and I'm sure you get this a lot with like parents and stuff, of realizing that sometimes that's what it takes, is
yeah,
just healthy boundaries, and sometimes a healthy boundary is a solid wall.
yes,
That it's almost like, from the parent aspect of, man, I hope in like maybe like 3 months I could, it'll be good. And so,
yeah.
no, sometimes it takes years.
It takes years and it takes a long time. And you know,
Do you
after
remember how you felt when you actually woke up and you realized that your dad wasn't coming back?
ooh, yeah, uh, I felt scared. Um, I felt alone. I felt like the one person that I've always had to lean on was gone. Um, and it wasn't that he was gone; it was that he had marked me gone. And so my importance, my ego was shattered. And that's what brought the humility and taught me to like, dude, you've got to do something different. If you ever want to, if like this is me talking to myself, if you ever want to have a relationship with your father again, get your shit together. Like I had to like be so sick and tired of myself, and it had to take the loss of a relationship with the person that I loved most, the person that taught me everything I cherished the most. I called about everything, and I didn't have that anymore. I didn't have that person to manipulate. The manipulation tactics got taken when he cut that off. And that's the most powerful thing you can do is quit giving, and this goes to other families that may be watching, quit giving the person, your loved one, the chance and the opportunity to continue to manipulate you. Because yes, the loved one is enabling it, but what's really happening is the manipulation is so high that it becomes maladaptive, and we don't even realize that we're manipulating because our intention is pure, but it's the maladaptive behavior that takes control, and it's like, blah, and we're just going with it. And so anybody that gets involved with that kind of behavior, they're doomed.
They are, and it's amazing how on even like a subconscious level you do it.
Yeah.
And it's like once it's done, you're like, oh wow, that was really good. I can't believe I pulled that off. But even when you're like in the middle of doing it, you don't realize you're doing it.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
whether it's you're trying to get money or whatever you want, because you're manipulating for something.
Yeah.
Um, and so to when it's over with, it's amazing because it's you have like almost like a little bit of guilt, but you feel rewarded in this weird way
Yeah.
that I pulled it off.
Yeah. And that's the addictive part of it. Like, because there's dopamine dropped whenever you achieve something like that. It's like, you and I, we can relate in sales. And when we go out and we make this sale and we just conned the shit out of them, and we charged them way more than what we needed to charge, and we go back and we holler at the other salesman, we're like, fucking did it. It's there's dopamine drop there. There's some kind of like excitement, accomplishment. And the accomplishment is what we are seeking, but we seek after it in weird, fucked up ways.
You do because it's almost like the biggest high is getting it, and once you got it, it's never what you want, like what it was supposed to be. You know,
Yeah.
it was never enough. It was. I always related it like I used to get more high, getting drugs than I did using drugs.
Yeah.
I
To
was
find,
more,
to seek. Yeah.
yeah, the whole my brain and how am I going to pull this all off? And
Yeah.
then once I had it, it was like, okay, the fun's gone, and like this is going to be gone in a little bit, and I'm going to need to do it again, and it was like exhaustion almost.
Yeah, bro, I remember in my addiction, like giving my money to the plug, and the plug was really the middleman, and they'd go to get it, wouldn't be back for like 3 days. And I'm like walking around the house or the yard, and I'm still tweaking, and like I'm like, oh, and I'm texting a million times, like there's some girl that just broke my heart. And I'm like, oh, where they at? Where they at? Where you at? Where you at? And they get tired of me, and but that was like that was the fun part.
Uh huh.
You know, it's like gambling, the fun part is losing all the money.
Yeah.
You win it, but you just put it right back in the machine or on the table and you lose it all again. And then you get high. For me, when in my gambling addiction, uh when I lost everything, it was like I think it was like $60,000 I lost in like 30 minutes, and it was the last bit of money that I had in my account. And I hit zero, and I had already overdrawn my bank account all the money that I could. And I got on the elevator and went up to my suite, and I'm just like, fuck. Like, I remember sitting on this bed and I was like, I cannot believe I just went through all of that money. That high was way more intense than ever winning the 100,000, all of the money that I won. So yeah, when we manipulate and we get our way, whether that's with ill intention or not, it's still like, oh yeah, fucking did it. So
Yeah.
it's the behavior, it's the thinking that is
Hmm.
rewarding, knowing that we can get away with it, or getting caught.
Hmm. So what was different about going to prison? I mean, there's a lot of things, so don't get me wrong, but what was different going to prison and getting sober versus the times that you maybe have tried to do it on your own?
So the difference was that I knew I always had an out. Prison, I'm locked up. Like unless I'm going to catch an escape charge, and And I'm not going that way. Like I'm not that big of a thug. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm
Uh-huh.
not going on a simple 10-year sentence. I'm not escaping and making it 30, right? Um, but in treatment, I had the willpower to walk out when I wanted to. I always had an out. And when I went to prison, I didn't have that. And I didn't have access. I mean, there's access to drugs in prison. There's a shit ton of access. But my family cut me off, so I didn't have money on my books. And the last thing I was going to do is put myself in a position to be somebody's bitch in prison. Like, so I just didn't create any debt for myself. And so that's what it was, bro. It was like being taken away from it and having no access to anything.
And so how did you handle that? Because I'm curious because I think you're a lot like I am there. Like there's a certain point that no matter how addicted I am, and I was, that there's certain things I'm just not gonna fucking do.
Right.
Like I'm just not. I don't
Yeah.
give a. I will deal with the goddamn withdrawals. There's some.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
like it's funny how people think, well, addicts, you'll do anything to get high, and
Yeah.
there's always something you ain't gonna
There's
fucking do.
yeah, that's what it was for me. I was not gonna put myself in debt. There's always something. And in my podcast, what I've seen the common denominator with most of my stories is that uh dirtbags have morals, right? Drug addicts have morals. Criminals have some kind of line of morals that they won't reach out to. We have a code.
Mhm.
And sometimes that code is a little bit brighter than other people's code, but um, it's just I don't think I would. I think I would have ran up a debt if I hadn't spent so much time in the county where there was no access to any kind of substance, right?
Mhm.
So I had this long period of time before I went to the penitentiary where I could get sober and clean, and my thinking started to kind of clear up, and I was able to make some decisions. I had uh, done that weird shit in the mirror and told myself I loved myself, and like I started to find myself before I went to the penitentiary where there was access to it, and so I think that helped. Now, if I would have just went straight in, withdrawn, I don't know what I would have done, bro. Like, uh, I don't know. I probably would have watched some boxers and some more shit to get a little high. So thank God that my path was to get sober in county before I went to the penitentiary. But there's still limited access, and I was so afraid of like being stuck there longer because I had been there before in 2018 and 19, where I went class 4, I got disciplinaries and went to the whole, like I created a whole violent jacket for myself and some more shit. And I ended up staying there a lot longer than I needed to stay there. And I didn't want to do that this time. So I just kind of stayed clear and worked on myself. But if it wasn't for the county time to like get my thinking back, my cognitive, I would have probably went crazy. I would have probably ran up a debt and been killed.
Mhm. No, and it's amazing how when you look at things like, does it all happen for a reason or not?
Yeah. You,
The
you have to believe it though.
Mhm.
Yeah, you have to believe that there's a reason for it. I mean, if we don't believe that there's a reason, then we believe that there's no purpose, and that all of those years, like for me it was like 23 years or something that I spent in active addiction, and like if if I found no reason for those 23 years, what what would be the purpose of living, bro? Like,
Mhm.
because I found purpose in it, I'm living the best life I could possibly live today. And it just having a beautiful family and healthy relationships, uh, and I attract healthy people into my life, and so that's all because I found reason in my trauma, in my experience for 23 years.
Mhm. No, and you have an amazing life. Like I love watching your stuff, and you went back to school, and now you're back at school again now, right? for your?
Yes. So I'm about to graduate with my bachelor's in addiction counseling,
Okay.
which that degree is like total bullshit. There's no reason to have a bachelor's in addiction counseling.
Why did
You
you
don't
get
have to
it
go to
then?
school to become an addiction counselor.
So why did you get your bachelor's in addiction counseling?
Because my goal is to get my master's and become an LPC, a licensed professional counselor. I can't get the
Okay.
master's and become an LPC unless I have some kind of bachelor's. So I picked addiction counseling because I know it really well. So
Did
it
it
worked
work in your
out.
benefit of knowing it well?
Yes, I
The,
know all the opposite sides. So let's learn the clinical. And now I get to use that. And, when we met, I was a peer support specialist.
uh-huh.
Um, and so it was cool to be able to offer peer services. But now, I'm the program director here at Covenant Recovery, and we're a men's treatment center. And now I get to practice clinical help and treatment and do it on a clinical guideline. And so now it's evidence based. It's a profession. I'm in a professional world. I sit with therapists and clinical directors and lawyers and doctors and all of these different professions. And because I have this schooling going on with my active experience, I'm able to like really relate to all of the different scenarios that we come across with my clients and patients.
That is awesome. And I think that's one of the important things is being able to relate with people.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially when it comes to, there are a lot of therapists out there and a lot of people out there that don't know from personal experience.
Yes. And this isn't throwing shots at anybody that is in this field
Uh-huh.
as a counselor or a therapist or a clinical director or whatever. But bro, if you haven't, and this is for me only, but if you're a therapist and you're a counselor and you haven't been through the shit that I've been through, don't tell me how to recover my life. Like you don't know the struggle for real. You know the textbook shit. And I just that's my asset, right? Is because I can sit down and do these one-on-ones. And that's what the men that come through our program, that's what they relate with me on, is because I understand the struggle. I understand what the struggle is and how dark and the evil it can be, but I also understand the opposite side of it, fighting through, sticking with it, being consistent, understanding what the definition of recovery is, and what that takes out of a person. And so when I don't have any expectations of when these guys come in here and they're withdrawing or they don't follow the rules and they walk off and they do some dumb shit or bring drugs into the facility, right? Um, I understand and I can expect it. It's not that I allow drugs in our facility. Let's get that clear.
Oh
But
no, nobody does. But also, let's be real about it. And this is the part that I always hated. That's so sugar coated. Let's be real about it. How many people come in trying to sneak it in?
oh,
How many people in out of 100 people trying to sneak it in? I'm sorry, but one's gonna do it.
yeah,
One, but
it
you're
could
gonna
be.
you're gonna find out quick.
Yeah, it's like
But
not too long ago, I had a guy that snuck in a Suboxone strip, right?
mhm.
And he had it in his mouth or something. And I have policies in place here. Like we have a bug zapper machine that warms the clothes up to make sure that there's no bed bugs. And then we wash the clothes and we put them in scrubs. But bro, if an addict's an addict, we're gonna figure out how to like sneak that shit in. And I'm not doing full cavity searches on them, but we search
Right.
all their stuff. They still figure out how to get it in here.
And that's the thing of where you talk about, that lived experience part. I think plays such a crucial role of, if you're not an addict and you're in this field, or an addiction hasn't affected your life, because I've met a lot of people where, maybe they're not an addict, but they had a parent that was, or they've
Yeah.
lost, you know what I mean? It's okay. It's affected your life. You've been around it. You've seen some of
Yeah.
this. I mean, otherwise, my whole mentality was like, go spend 6 months helping people on the street,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you're going to realize that you're probably not going to help any of them. You're going to watch a lot of them die.
Right.
And none of it's going to make any sense. Like, it's
Right.
none of it, because you logically know, like, I have a solution for you.
Yeah.
I can get you out of this. We can get you into play.
Yeah.
Dude, it's amazing how many people I talk to even that won't go to rehab alone because they're afraid they're going to get fired from their job or was there. And I'm like, dude, if you're an addict, you're gonna get
You're
fired
gonna you're gonna
regardless.
lose it anyways.
Yeah, or the well, my family's gonna be your family's gonna leave you regardless,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah,
They don't realize that they have social workers there to help them with their court and all. Like, there's so many
right.
resources out there, and that's the insanity of an addict, though. And if
Yeah,
you don't get it, you don't get it.
yeah. And let's go back to that like soul contract, right? That I
Mm-hmm.
believe so strongly in, that helps me understand why I went through all the shit I went through. Is that if somebody comes to me and I offer them the help and they don't take it and I get mad about it, that's on me, bro. They didn't fucking come to me and ask me for help. I'm just out here trying to play Captain Save an Addict and like save the world because I'm in recovery. Like, that's not the way it works. What I've learned of being in this profession and being an addict, right, that needed help, is that nobody can save me. I
Mm-hmm.
can't save anybody else. I can't take that trauma away. I can't take that pain away. I can't give you the solution, right? All I can do as somebody on this end that helps other men in recovery and gain their lives back is give you the knowledge, give you the resources, and what you do with that is on you. If I make that my problem, my chances of returning to use and relapsing are like astronomical. So I can't take that on. But again, the soul contract is if somebody comes and asks me for help and I agree to that, then however long that lasts, that's what we agreed on. And so, it's not a coincidence. It's an agreement that I decided on before I could even remember. And that's all I'm here to do is just shine a bright light onto the lives around me, and just maybe I can help the community. Maybe I can help one family. Maybe I can help one person. Fuck, maybe it's a dog that I'm helping by helping this man, right? I don't know. And it's not my job to know. It's just my job to be the brightest light in the world that I can possibly be.
Mm-hmm. And it is, and it's the best way to look at it. Otherwise, you take it all on and you think you're going to save the world.
Right. You're not saving the world, bro. You're nobody's gonna save the world. If you want to make the world a better place, work on you
Mm-hmm.
or become a better person. And then that energy and that light starts to spread, and it spreads like a wildfire, bro. It's just when I walk into a room and I am one with myself and I'm like really aware and present, people can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I walk into a room and I'm pissed off and the dog shit in the house, the baby's crying, the wife's bitching, like, and I bring that shit to work and I walk in the room, they feel that. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever energy I have in me, I just have to make sure that it's the energy that I want to pass on to everybody else.
It is, and it's hard to let a lot of that go, and that's why I think it's really important to find healthy coping tools to let it go.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
otherwise, it starts to just slowly pack on a bunch of baggage, man, and it don't fit in the overhead compartment after a while.
Right. And on coping tools and mechanisms, it's like all of them work.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to do one. Like, there's so many people out there that are making excuses. Oh, no, that doesn't work for me. Oh, I tried that. That didn't. No, you didn't really. You tried it, but there's no such thing as try. Like you kind of threw a little stick at it and you hope that, oh, it didn't change instantly and there was no instant gratification. Like the coping mechanisms take a long time. Like you have to use it every time, be consistent with it.
Yeah, no, and it's either going to be, it's you're going to find that you use it to enable yourself to still be the pity party that you are, or
Mhm.
you use it to actually find the solution and work through.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how many people almost don't want to get better sometimes.
Dude, you
Um,
hit the nail on the head.
and for that, you have to call it what it is and not People are like, oh, you got to be nice and you can be nice and kind to everybody, but not invest your energy with everybody because not
Right.
everybody deserves your energy. If you
No, they
really want to
don't.
help people, find the ones that really want that help and help them
Correct.
because everyone else is
Correct.
just going to take, take, take.
Yeah, and have zero expectations that they're going to do what you say or
Mm-hmm.
what you advise or your time when you go to spend time with somebody and help them, that leave it at that. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking this time no matter how the situation goes. This is what I'm willing to invest in you. And if you're not willing to invest in it, don't put your money in that investment. Like don't put your time in that investment. Just take it for what it is. If you care, show it, and then leave it at the door.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. And it makes life a lot easier.
It does. And it makes this field, advocating for addiction and recovery and criminality and if we just go into it with, hey, I'm just going to be an advocate, right? This is what it can do. I'm not saying that what happened to me can happen for you, but you can try it, right? If
Mm-hmm.
try it, just apply a few of these things to your life. Whatever happens happens, but I promise you, if you keep doing the same shit's going to continue to happen. If nothing
Yeah.
changes, nothing changes.
No, and all it's going to do is get worse.
Yes.
It's either like worst case scenario, you change it up and it stays the same. At least it's not going to get any worse.
Right.
I mean, come on.
Right. Right. Yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
it's really amazing how life throws this different stuff at you and how all it takes is that one thing to kind of change your mindset, whether it's a family member or
Yeah.
what, to go,
Yeah.
wow, this is real this time.
Yeah. And so what it is like when someone's trying to change and they feel stuck and they feel hopeless, right? There's somebody out there that felt hopeless in their point of recovery. I did, you did, my mentors did. Everybody goes through it that's made it to this side of recovering their life's back. And but that's what it is. It's just you see somebody that has that hope. When you're hopeless and you see that, and you're like, okay, like what was the moment for you? For me, the moment of hope was that I saw two men be in the same situation I did, and they were giving me hope. That's what changed it for me. That made me feel not so hopeless, that it was possible, right? And so, when we go and we advocate and we're doing the work that we do, whether that's on social media, whether that's in a treatment center, whether that's in a conversation at the gas station, like it's important for us just to be that light, like just be that hope, because we don't know what's going to change an addict. We don't know what's going to change another man's life. It could be like hello, it could be I love you, it could be a hug, it could be just I don't know, man. It's the conversation pieces are only 10% of it or 1% of it is remembered, right? And it's just usually one little word of a whole hour of conversation. And so we don't know what we can change, but if we live to that example, then we can be changing.
So last question, so 4 years you didn't talk to your dad.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening? Did he reach out to you or you reach out to him? What was that moment where he got back into your life?
Yeah. So I was in reentry, and me and my parole officer sat down, and she was like, "Hey, would you like to call your dad?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And so she dialed the phone on her cell phone because we weren't allowed to have cell phones. And he answered. And when he answered, he was like, he was just shocked that I would even try to call him. And I have to tell this part of the story to get to the next part of the story. Um, and when we hung up, my parole officer was like, "I'm so sorry that I even encouraged that to happen." I mean, it was devastating.
Oh
And
yeah.
so, yeah, I mean, I was like, oh my God, he was pissed that
Uh-huh.
I even rang his phone. And then when I graduated reentry, so I went all this time, that one conversation out of like 4 years. And then when I graduated, I had my own place. I ended up getting my own car. I had all of my own things. I was independent finally. Um, and I called him and I said, "Hey, Dad, I'm out." He said, "Oh, that's good." And so then I just stopped by his house one day, and when I walked in the house, everything had changed. He just picked up from like nothing happened. And I was like, damn. I was like, my father, he's a very brilliant person, and he understands uh, psychology of the human mind in a way that I'll never be able to understand. He was a life coach and a minister and a motivational coach, and so he understands things that I'll never understand. But when I walked in that day, and he just carried on. We just sat down at the table, had a conversation. He didn't want to talk about the past. He was only talking about him and me, and we were enjoying a cup of coffee. And then he said, "Hey, I'll be right back. I've got to run to the store real quick." And he left me in his house unattended. The first time I was like, okay, this is a test. I was worried, like I didn't move. I just sat right there in the chair. I was like, and he's got cameras in his house, but it was it was a relief that that moment he taught me that we don't have to worry about the past. We don't have to worry about the future. Like, just enjoy this moment of sitting here and drinking a cup of coffee, and the relationship, right? The bond was still there. I felt like I didn't miss anything, and I didn't hold any grudge towards him. There was nothing for him to forgive me for, and there was nothing I had to forgive him for. It was unsaid forgiveness, and we've been strong ever since, man. And I built consistency with that relationship, and now it's the most precious thing. I mean, and what's really cool is that I have a 9-month daughter, and since day one, she's understood that connection. So he's like the only one, Pop's the only one that can come and hold my daughter without her screaming. And she feels that connection. She feels that energy. And that's my belief. I can't scientifically prove that, but that's what I believe. Okay. Let me believe what I believe. Um, but it just passes on, and it's a bond, bro. And that connection is what my addiction robbed of me. That connection is what my trauma robbed from me. And I allowed it to. I allowed the addiction and the trauma and the circumstances to take away that connection and that bond that I have with other people, with my greater power, with myself, all of the above. It robbed me of connection and bonding moments like that. And so I cherish every bit of it every single day.
That's awesome, man. I love that.